Welcome to the Escape the System channel. I'm Joe Barnes, and in today's video, I've got a very special interview. I have my friend and author here, fellow author Thibaut Meurisse. I'm here to discuss his mega success, his all-time best-selling book, Master Your Emotions, and he's got a new book out called Think for Yourself. We're going to talk a little bit about the author journey. We're going to talk a little bit about productivity and emotions, two areas in which he specializes in. And we're also going to talk about the new subjects he's writing about, critical thinking, thinking for yourself, the kind of books I also touch on a little bit with my books, Escape the System and The Rebel Code. So, Thibaut, thanks for being here. First of all, congratulations. I know from our messages on Instagram that you've hit over 1 million sales for your vast array of books. I don't know how many you've got out now, it must be 30 or plus, but well done on that. I mean, this, for me, it's a huge dream to get to 1 million sales. I'm so far off it. So for us to have started at roughly the similar time and now you to be doing it, it's big inspiration for me. So congratulations on that. And how did it feel for you? Was it just another day in the office, or did you celebrate it, or were you even aware that it happened?
Good question. Yeah, thanks for having me. So we are back in London.
Yeah.
Last time was 2018, so it's already 7 years ago, which is insane. So I didn't exactly know the number because you can't really count like the overseas sales from different countries. You don't have the numbers yet. You have the number of pages read on Amazon, so I can't really calculate, but it was roughly last year. Now I'm about to obviously 1.4 million, I think, right now. Book sales, yeah.
Yeah, because it's funny you say that, because I've got it indeed. I guess when you're selling less numbers, it's easier to keep track of it. But like when I hit that number, I don't know, I think I'm going to collapse. It'll be like an incredible moment for me, but it's almost like it passed without you even realizing it. But I guess then that success builds over years and years. You just almost... It was inevitable that was going to happen. Do you ever sort of stop and think, wow, how the hell have I done this? Less than 10 years ago, I maybe sold a couple of thousand copies, and now I'm over 1 million. Do you ever stop and think about that?
Well, it has been exponential, for sure. After in 2020, I think I reached 100,000 sales. So that's 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Now we had a 1.5 almost, so it's 15x.
Yeah.
The thing with numbers is that you get used to it. Becomes nothing. At 1 million, and what is 1 million? What is 2 million? And I think yesterday 2 days ago, I was this Lion King show in in London, this musical. Mm-hmm. Maybe they have 1,000 people in 2,000, maybe 1,000, I don't know. And I was thinking a million is, or 2,000. I don't know how many you have, but I was thinking it's like you have 1,000 times that in terms of book sales. Like I can't imagine that number. It's insane.
Yeah.
So I was thinking, imagine you gather all your readers, my readers, in a room. It would be like ridiculous numbers. So I think, for me, I can't really comprehend the number, what it means. It's kind of,
But what about where you were to where you've come from? Do you ever stop to think, God, I was this really frustrated office worker in Japan, and now I'm, you're location independent, living in Estonia, you've got a great life for yourself there, you've got your girlfriend, and you were telling me earlier about how, you can just go and train and work out whenever you want during the day. Do you ever sort of think about that in terms of the transformation that you've been through? I mean, you're writing about transformation in your books, but do you ever think about that transformation you've personally been through as well?
Yeah, I think about it all the time, and I'm like, being able to go to the gym at 11:30 every day, every weekday, if I want to take time off, travel when I want. I think there's nothing more valuable than having the ability to do that. Before that, I was at a regular a 9-to-5 job, in Japan, and you can't do that. Looking at the clock, it's so long. What time again? I think it was very hard for me. For me, maybe I take it for granted now, but I like to remind myself once in a while. I'm very, very blessed.
Yeah.
To be where I am today, and also doing what I enjoy doing for the most part, writing books, studying, researching, having message from readers sometimes, saying they enjoy my work or you have an impact on their life. I think what better job can you get?
Yeah,
personally, I think
absolutely.
It's great. It's great. Yeah.
It's funny. I remember 10 years ago plus, you would message me on Facebook saying,
Yeah.
I'm so pissed off with this. You know, I'm here in the office and I can't remember when exactly you quit, but you were sort of saying, I can't take much more of this. I've got to get out of here and, you know, make this work. And at the time you only had 1 or 2 books out, I think. So it was a big, okay, they were doing quite well or well enough for you to think this might work. But to take that leap was a big thing. And I guess, you know, right now you may be watching this thinking, you know, I'm stuck in my job. You know, could I take that leap? Well, you know, here you have a guy who's done it and it worked out. So, I mean, do you have any words for people who may sort of be in your situation, the situation you were in 10, 11 years ago? Any encouragement or anything you would say?
For me, it's always the same message. Like, if you want to do something, just get started. Doesn't matter. Like, small, get started. Do something about it. Because some people say, "I want to be a writer." Are you writing something? No. What do you mean? If you want to be a writer, you have to write. Like, what are you waiting for? Nobody's going to come to save you and give you a book deal. You know, it's like you have to do the thing that you want to do. So that's common sense. So I would say, do something about it now. Even if you have a full-time job, find some time every day, an hour a day, 30 minutes a day, and be consistent with the work. And then over time, you find maybe it's working out for you. Maybe you get good feedback from your readers or from whatever you're doing, good feedback from your clients, your customers. And then you keep moving from that. And over time, maybe you can quit your job or you can, I don't know, have a part-time job and do something on the side. But find a way to, over time, get out of the situation you don't want to be in. It might take years, 5 years, 10 years. It's not easy.
But it's worth it.
But I think if you don't like where you are, try to do something about it.
Yeah.
Before it's too late.
Absolutely. So let's sort of dive into your books a little bit. You've got, as far as I can see from my research, you've got sort of 2 main series, the Mastery series and the Productivity series. I know you have others as well, but they seem to be the best sellers. I wanted to look at, obviously you're most well known for Master Your Emotions. It's probably your top selling book, but Dopamine Detox has also sold a lot from what I can see. But first of all, focusing on the emotions, because that seems to be a topic that a lot of people are interested in. What 3 tips, you know, how good would you say your level of emotional mastery is? And I have your girlfriend over there, so she may have a different opinion on this, but where would you score yourself out of 10 on your emotional mastery? And what do you think the tips are to improving that? Because I guess a lot of people feel their emotions get the better of them or sabotage them. So what would you say to that?
Okay, so if I am to score myself, I don't know. I would say maybe 8 out of 10, I don't know. Yeah. But sometimes not being, you know, as nice as I could be, you know, being pissed off about something and, you know, kind of not being super nice sometimes. But overall, I would say I feel pretty good most of the time. And I think that's very important. And the reason why I wrote this book 7 years ago now, Master Your Emotions, because I realized that for me to be successful in my career, for instance, I would need to be able to handle the lows as well as the highs. So you're going to have a lot of lows, like failures, nothing is working, and you have to keep going anyway for months. For me, it was even for 4 years. I think it's pretty common for people to have to do that. So if you can manage your emotion well enough, you're going to be falling to depression, despair. You're going to quit on your goals, right? And I think it's so important to be able to do that. Or if you fall into depression, it's very hard to get out of it as well. So if you can find a balance to how do I bounce back from negative emotions and keep going toward my goals. So I think for me, it's the number 1 skill that people need to have to achieve anything in life. And one thing that worked very well for me is the self-compassion aspect of being really nice to yourself when you talk to yourself. So now I would never insult myself. Oh, I was so stupid. Why did I do that? I really try not to do that at all. Being more like, oh, it's okay. You can do better next time. Everybody has issues and stuff like that are very simple words that you can use when you talk to yourself. But they are very, very effective. And I think it's one of the most important things that people can do is to learn how to be more self-compassionate. And now why people don't do that is because they believe in different myths about self-compassion. They think, oh, if I'm not harsh with myself, I'm going to be lazy. I'm going to be lazy. Or I don't want to be selfish. It's just me. No, I think these are like misunderstandings of what self-compassion can do for you. And what I found out like years ago is that actually when you're self-compassionate, you're way more productive, you're way happier, and you just keep going like forever, basically. You keep going. You improve on your mindset, you improve on your skills. As a result, you achieve most of your goals. But if you start beating yourself up all the time, you're going to be never getting there. You're going to be stopping all the time. Oh, why did I do that? I'm so stupid. So that's one skill, one thing I would say people need to practice over time. It's something that's kind of counterintuitive in a way. We learn to be harsh with ourselves. You have to build yourself up the stick as opposed to using the more like coaching approach, being a coach or being a friend to yourself. So that's the one thing I would say people should focus on first.
I think that's such good advice. And where I find that applies the most is when I'm playing tennis.
Okay.
So many tennis players will say, "You idiot! Why did you do that? You're rubbish." And I just had to stop myself saying it, because you make yourself. If you say that, you're guaranteed that you're going to play a terrible shot in the next minute or so. It's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy. So I completely agree with that. Learning how to show yourself compassion and make sure your self-talk is positive. Like you said, you'd never criticize yourself. I learned, maybe I do it in other areas, but at least I learned on the tennis court, no bad talking myself, because guaranteed it will just only make me play worse. Another thing I wanted to mention was, I remember, I don't know how long it was, 3-4 years ago, your book, Master Your Emotions, your best-selling book, got pirated on Amazon. And they were able to tell Amazon that their copy of their version of Master Your Emotions was the genuine book, and that yours was the pirate, and you couldn't sell your book for a while, or the paperback version of your book, I think. I'm not sure if it was both versions, on Amazon. And I just thought, as an author, God, that's just the worst thing possible that could happen to you. Yet to me, from a distance, it seemed you were relatively calm about that. Is that right? And how was that experience?
Yeah, so I wasn't that calm about it, actually. I was kind of pissed off. Actually, it happens for the last half a year, I think. It was for the Kindle version of the book.
Oh, the Kindle.
And it's kind of complicated. Basically, it's a glitch in the algorithm, and they kind of make it seem like I wasn't the author of the book. I'm not going to go into details, it's not that interesting, but basically they blocked the book for half a year. And I was like, couldn't do anything about it, trying to message Amazon, trying to solve the problem, and it was a kind of a nightmare. But yeah, so I wasn't that calm about it, but again, I have to keep going. I can just be, crying about it. Like, what do you want to do about it? So,
well, from a distance, it seemed like you dealt with it.
Yeah, one thing I want to mention also, like when you do any kind of business, you have some kind of success. You're going to have what I call the cost of doing business. It means like scammers, people trying to steal your money is going to happen if you have some success. So it's almost like you have to be expecting it to happen and be like, no, just cost of doing business. So it certainly it sucks, but we have to keep going anyway and find some solutions. Yeah. So that's how it is.
No, I like the way you put that, cost of business.
Cost of doing business.
It's too something I try to remind myself if I have some disasters, even though fortunately I've never had a disaster quite like that. But as you say, I think the bigger you get, the more you succeed, the more chances are things like that happen. But from Master Your Emotions to your other series, which is your productivity series, and I wanted to get, for myself and for the viewers, a few tips from you on productivity, because I know it's not just something you write about, it's something you live. You release multiple books a year. You've been doing this for 8 or so years. You're a fast writer. I'm a little jealous of the speed at which you can write and release books myself. So I want to know from you, what tips would you give someone who's looking to get a lot done in a relatively short space of time?
So one thing I would focus on in the energy. People think about productivity as doing more stuff. It's more about how much energy do you have when you're doing a task. So for me, I would focus on what the main task I need to get done, and focus on that when I have the most energy during the day. Which usually for me, it's a morning. I'm more like a morning person. So I would say to your readers, like our listeners, find when do you have the most energy during your day, and if possible, focus on your most important task. Because if you don't do that every day, then you lose that time like kind of forever, because you can't get that peak time the next day. You lost kind of a day in a way. So really focusing on where do you have the most energy and how can I use it to reach whatever important goals you have. I think it would be the biggest tip. The second one would be consistency. Make sure that every day you're working on, keep doing that every day for months, years, or even more. So to can start getting the traction, the compounding effect, if you want, of your work over time. So I think it's the two things I would mention that would be, for me, work pretty well.
Yeah. Hearing you say that makes me think of a book I know you like. It's a book I like a lot, which is The One Thing by Gary Keller. Would you, and I wanted to ask you this question, outside of your books, if you had a top 3 self-help or non-fiction books, would The One Thing be in it, and what would the other 2 or 3 books be on that list?
Yeah, The One Thing would be in it because every year I'm like reading it maybe a couple of times every year. It's kind of helped me step back and look at the bigger picture to make sure that what I'm doing today is really like as effective as possible to get to where I want to be. So that's one book. Number 2 would be, I think, more spiritual book. So I like James Allen, the famous As a Man Think.
Yeah.
Because for me, in the morning, I like to be sometime in the mood of more like a spiritual, everything is possible type of kind of mindset, mood you are, like when you're meditating, for instance. And I think it's useful to have both the practical side of logical thinking, one goal, focus on that, be productive, and also the side of what is possible if I take a step back, kind of relax and see what could I do in the world with my work. So I like these 2 type of book to help me. And the third one would be maybe similar to Neville Goddard. It's called The Power of Awareness. It's a good one also.
Yeah.
Similar thing about spirituality. And even if I don't necessarily believe in everything in the book, I don't know, to be honest, but just being able to be in a mindset of expansion and thinking about what's possible, I think it's interesting.
It's a good list. I would have As a Man Thinketh on my list. I'd have The One Thing pretty close to the top 3. It'd be in my top 10, definitely. I haven't read Neville Goddard though, so that's what was it? Awareness?
The Power of Awareness.
Power on Awareness.
Pretty short book. So
I will look at that one. So it sort of brings us on to your last book, your latest book, and I think viewers should be able to see behind Thibaut there is Think for Yourself. Most recently released, was it the last month or?
I think it's a couple of months ago.
Okay, and it's interesting to me because you're moving a little bit onto sort of critical thinking and evaluating, understanding that not everything you hear from the media or people around you might be the truth, and challenging that. So it's a subject I'm very interested in. I took a quote from your book and I want to read it to you quickly because I thought, man, I could have written this. This could have been me writing this. Human beings' reluctance to challenge authority has been responsible, at least partially, for some of the most atrocious crimes in history. And that really caught my attention because it connects a little bit with what I write in the Rebel Code about how we have leaders, followers, and rebels. And it's a sort of ecosystem of how we work together. And followers, which don't think for themselves and don't, challenge what they're told, can, unwittingly fall into that category, most atrocious crimes in history because they don't challenge anything. They don't have that ability to question what they're being told. The obvious example is always the Nazis, and it wasn't just the Nazi party. To some extent, the German population were compliant as well. So, where did you sort of hit upon that, or why did you think this subject was important, and what made you want to write about it?
For me, it's important because I think it's about trying to understand what is true and what is not, which is very difficult, and maybe there is no truth, maybe you don't have access to it because we don't have all the information we can have in the world, right? But knowing, if I want to reach a goal, for instance, I need to know what's working and what is not working. If I want to have a good diet or live longer, or longevity, live up to 100, for instance, I need to know what's working and what is not, based on science, for instance, based on studies. And many people, they have gurus online who come up with gimmicks, like weird diet, for instance, for health. And you have to be able to understand, is it actually true? And look at the data, look at the science, look at the research, and figure out what is true from what is not. And even people who are smart can use research in a wrong way to try to manipulate you as well. So that's why you have to be really good at understanding how research works, how to think for yourself, to look at the data yourself. Well, is it actually true? And that's why I think it's important. That's one reason. There's many reasons.
So the payoff, what you're saying, the payoff is you get closer to the truth by having this skill, by being able to think for yourself. You essentially think more clearly. You can find better answers and solutions. Is that what you would say it was?
Yeah, and even if I mention that, you say I'm moving toward these critical thinking topics, but in reality, almost all my books I talk about that process of alignment with reality, try to understand what is true and what is not. So when you act, like what you do has an impact on the world. So I don't know if you have a business model that doesn't work. Well, I like to criticize MLM, so multi-level marketing, but like Ponzi scheme, stuff like that. If you think it's working and you keep doing that for many, many years, you never get anywhere because the business model for me doesn't work. Then that's because you don't understand that it doesn't work. So you're losing your time, wasting your money on stuff that don't work. And we have to use our time in a way that is more productive, I think. So that's why in general, we have to be able to think more critically, make better decisions and get the result we want. So yeah, I think it's a very important topic.
I can see why it's important, and I see the payoff when you explain it like that. I always think there's a little bit of another side to it because, I kind of write about the other side to it, which is that when you do think for yourself and you make independent decisions, it can put you in opposition with some people, and it can draw quite a lot of pressure back or criticism back on you, because you have the ability to challenge authority or challenge the mainstream view of things, and you do things differently. So do you think in some ways it can isolate you a bit when you do think for yourself?
Yeah, I think we have this in the book. I mentioned the desire to belong, to be part of the tribe, right? So people would rather belong than be alone or be lonely and don't know what to do with their thoughts, with their goals as well. And I think it's a trade-off. You have to be willing to be a bit lonely person in order to stick to your beliefs or what you think is correct. So you might have to challenge your authority. You might have to challenge people and say, no, that's not true because of this, because of that. You can prove it maybe. So I think I think you have to be able to stand for yourself and maybe be a little bit like by yourself or in a smaller tribe.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in agreement with you. I think absolutely you've got to think for yourself. I think the benefits far outweigh that perhaps a little bit of isolation you might experience. Perhaps, not for sure.
And thinking about the thing in the book, I say that if you don't think for yourself, someone will think for you. It's like you can't just not think. If you don't do your own thinking and decision in life, people will make them for you. What to do with your career, what to do with your life. You have to be deciding what do I want. So you have to think for yourself and you can decide. Otherwise, we just keep following what people are doing. Buying a new car, maybe you don't want, but because everybody has a nice car, you want to be able to keep up with the Joneses, right? This kind of mindset also. As opposed to saying, what do I really like, what do I really want? So it comes down to knowing who you are so that you can make a decision based on your values, which is your values, right? Not anybody else.
I just think it's crazy how many people don't think for themselves. I think it's a minority of people who do it. So yeah, a much needed book. Hopefully people can read that and sort of use this ability to evaluate and think for themselves, and as you said, I like what you said, get closer to the truth by doing that.
It's really hard.
Yeah, no.
And in the book, I try to be as unbiased as I could. Obviously, everybody has biases, political biases or religious, just to make people stop and think, what is actually true, and how do I research what is true and what is not? How do I test in the real world? I think that's important.
Good. No, I think it's a good way of coming at it, which sort of brings us to the end of what I wanted to talk to you about, Thibaut. But I guess the final question is, considering all the success you've had, the different areas you've written about, what does the future hold for you? Do you have an end goal? Do you are there more subjects you want to write about? What do you see in store for you?
Yeah, it's a great question. I have so many books on so many different topics, personal development wise. I think it's going to be very similar. For now, at least, I want to keep writing, become a better writer, try to have a bigger impact, and just keep going for, who knows, 5, 10, 20 years, 30 years. And if at some point I decide, I'm tired of this, or it doesn't work out, or I want to do something else, then I might shift. But for now, I don't really see anything else I want to do, I think. So I'm just there.
Well, you could you could do relationships.
Yeah, you can do
weight loss,
topics. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah,
fitness.
I guess fitness, but even that is still a part of the personal development.
Yeah.
And I talk about it sometimes in books. Stuff about losing weight or keeping in shape, consistency, habits. So at this point, it's kind of hard to find brand new topics to talk about. So I don't know actually what's going to be my next book. but yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, I mean the others are doing so well that you've got time. You've bought yourself time now to just relax and see how things develop. You know, let those ideas come to you. Anyway, Thibaut, it's been great having you here. Good speaking to you. I always find it fascinating listening to your insights and listening, you know, recapping on your story. So we'll catch up at some point in the future and discuss your new books. But for now, thanks a lot for being here, and all the best for the future.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.